Lights on the screen, hey, it's Grant and Ryan. We bleed purple, talking hoops, never lying. Sacramento Kings, we rise and we fall. If you don't like that, then you don't know ball. Jerry sitting with the stories of the game, spilling all the truth, driving legends insane. From the Cow Palace days to Arco's roar, this town's heart beats on the hardwood floor. If you don't like that, turn away now. Kings in our blood, we rise strong and proud. Running up the score, Kings never back down. If you don't like that, this ain't your town.
Hey everybody, and happy Thanksgiving. It is our Kings Roundtable and kind of the Kings pregame show as they are in Minnesota tonight, a 2-game road trip. No DeMar DeRozan, no Trey Lyles. They did sign Jay Crowder. I don't know what we can expect from him, but Minnesota did play last night. They lost in overtime. 3 of the starters played 40 or more minutes. But we back up to the Oklahoma City game, and Jerry, we'll start with you. What a dreadful second half.
Yeah, just surprising to me because we talked at halftime how well the game was played, certainly from the Kings' perspective as well as Oklahoma City. And really, third quarter, they just came out and took over the Oklahoma City. And, it's just one of the cases where the Kings we've seen recently where their offense just stalls. Not only can't they guard the opponents, which they've had struggle doing that, but offensively, just not able to score. And, I don't know. It's a real joke to see that kind of an effort or production at home, but we've seen it a few times now already.
Jerry, was it as much about what Oklahoma City did, or is much about what the Kings didn't do?
I think it's about half and half. Certainly Oklahoma City, they're an outstanding team. I think they're. If you said right now they're one of 3 of the best teams in the league, probably the Cavaliers and Celtics would be the other 2 right now today. But they also had 2 key guys not available to play.
Yeah.
And, defensively they turned it up, which did impact the Kings, I thought. But the bottom line is offensively, you just saw this. I don't know that I've seen poorer spacing from the Kings in years. They just seemed all glommed up in there. You didn't see ball movement at all. I'm just one last thing. And now you guys watch these guys as much as I do. And when is the last time we've seen, say a team score on the Kings, they take it out of bounds and push it up court and get a shot within 4 or 5 seconds? A couple of years ago, you saw that all the time.
Yeah.
The pace.
That's a great point.
Now point. I don't know that I've seen it all year.
Yeah. Jerry, the Kings' inability to defend the perimeter, is that on the players or is it on the coaching staff or is it on both? I mean, where does that start? Because it's a repetitive situation. We're talking about it every game. Even when the Kings win, a lot of times the other team shoots a high percentage from 3. What's the problem there? Where does the blame lie? Because it's, to me, unacceptable.
Well, certainly a good bit of it has to be on the players. But having said that, I'm just not sure I like the schemes particularly. We seeing so many traps out high, double teams out high, and these teams in the NBA are too good. They break the trap, and now you got 4 on 3, and then you see all the help in the paint, and then the kick outs to wide open threes. Now, the other part of that is, guys, if you leave a shooter to help, you always want to make sure you don't leave that you can't get back. And right now we're, from what I'm seeing is, you're seeing guys leave to help, but they're not helping and they're not getting back. So if you got to make a choice, if you can't really get in there to help, stay on the shooter. Stay on, especially those corner shooters. Those are gimmies.
Yep. Jerry, something you called for was Keon Ellis in the starting lineup. We saw that last game. You just laid out the defense. What changes can we see in this defense now that Keon's in the starting lineup?
Well, I think, I'll say this. If in fact they would maybe just go back to more, straight up basketball, I'm guarding you. You're my man. Well, Keon and certainly De'Aaron, right away, you've got a good guard line that puts pressure on the ball, and you don't really need to double. So I from that standpoint, now that makes it a lot harder for the team to get in their offense and hit the wings and all that. So I'm at the stage I'd like to see just simply more responsibilities on a. That's your man, guard him. Obviously, if you lose him on screens, you're going to have to get some help. But right now it's it's kind of all over the place. It seems like we're trying to trick everybody, and we're the ones getting tricked.
This question about Jay Crowder. Grant, do you think Jay Crowder is a good pickup? Kings are desperate for bench players right now. I wouldn't say it's a good pickup. Listen, they brought him in for a workout right before training camp, and they did not invite him to training camp. And he also, Jay, went to other teams trying to get on a training camp roster and could not. There's a reason why he's available, and there was a reason why he's not on another team. So does that mean that he can't play? No. Would I expect a lot from him? No. But, I mean, you have to get somebody, and he's a veteran. He's 34. He knows how to play the game. So, I mean, what do you have to lose?
He's dealt with injuries over the past couple seasons. Milwaukee didn't particularly have the playing time for him. Jerry pointed out that was a little bit of an issue. I think there's playing time now, but he does bring a little bit of grit. If he's got some energy left in the tank, maybe it helps the Kings here and there in spurts, Jerry.
Well, he is tough. He's a tough guy. I mean, he'll compete. Now, if they had got Jay Crowder 5 years ago, I'd been excited as heck.
Yeah.
But they're not getting that guy. Now he can spot shoot threes, and he'll try to compete and guard. But as we've talked about, I mean, and to Grant's point, I mean, they had to get somebody. I have no fault with it. They had to get somebody with Lyles out, just another body, and who's out there you can get really for very little. One of them. But having said that, the main problem is still the main problem, and he doesn't solve any of that. Length at the position or athleticism. I mean, that Jay Crowder is not quite 6'7", and he's never been a really lively, athletic type guy. He's not Derrick Jones Jr., type guy.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about tonight's game. Minnesota played last night. They lost in overtime. They're now 8-9. They're a half game ahead of Sacramento. They're struggling. The Kings are struggling. You're getting a tired Minnesota team, but you're also getting a Kings team without DeMar DeRozan. Now, the last time we didn't see DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox looked like Superman, and I think he's going to have to be Superman tonight if the Kings are going to win this game, guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think for this team to win, probably De'Aaron's got to go for 35 to 40 for sure. They just can't get enough points otherwise, and you are catching Minnesota right. And as you pointed out, I mean, they've been struggling pretty much like the Kings. If there is a good news scenario here for the Kings, it's the fact that Denver and Minnesota and Dallas, three of the real contenders in the East, are all struggling.
Yep.
So nobody's found their footing yet.
Yeah,
and it looks like Mike Conley is going to be available tonight, Rhino. He did not play last night, but he's not on the injury report. I just looked. Joe Ingles is out, but Conley is not on the injury list.
Yeah, Crowder did not participate in shoot-around. He did watch, so that's notable. He's a game-time decision. 4-6 in the last 10, Jerry and Grant, for Minnesota. They've had trouble scoring the ball, 105, 105, 111 in overtime last night. They only shot 23.7% from beyond the arc last night. Here's my problem. They are one-faceted. They like to shoot the three ball. They like to play on the perimeter. For me tonight, it's what are you going to do against Naz Reid? Naz Reid has ripped this team up and gives them the inside presence that allows them to play inside out against the Kings, Jerry.
Oh, absolutely. Naz Reid is one. Fact is, I've always said I think he's a better player than Rudy Gobert. I mean, he just doesn't start, but he really can change the game because he's so lively, can spot shoot threes. Yeah, he's a guy that is a tough cover for the Kings. Absolutely. And you pointed out the thing too. I think that just from watching them, that one of the reasons I think they're struggling a little bit is they really have become a couple of ball stoppers. Both, Edwards, as great as he is, really dominates the ball, maybe to a fault, and then Randall as well. And so the other guys just basically become sightseers, and they haven't, I think they can get it worked out, but to date, that's one of the reasons that I think they're losing, is that they just don't have any flow to their offense at all.
If you had to guess, do you think they regret making that trade now with Karl Anthony Towns to New York?
I would say today they do. I'm not too sure that it still won't work out. You know what I mean? I think that getting and Dante DiVincenzo hasn't really been particularly effective.
He was benched in the second half last night.
Yeah, and he can play, and I think it'll, we'll see, but certainly it's worked out for the Knicks, and early on it didn't for the Knicks, but now they look like they're really ready to go.
I think they're very similar to Phoenix in that they need a true distributor. And I know that's Mike Conley's job, but Mike Conley's getting up there in age and he's not as effective as he has been in the past. Mm-hmm. I think you get somebody in there like a Tyus Jones, that gets the flow going. And for the Kings, Jerry and Grant, they don't really have a true distributor either.
No, that's a good point. Certainly, with Mike Conley at his best, he was perfect for that team. You go back, still good last year, and the year before was very good. But probably has lost a step, and they really need a penetrator that can really get in there and create some problems. Where Mike, they can't do that quite like he used to, and really for the Kings, De'Aaron is a great scorer first and playmaker second, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what he should be doing.
That's what he is. Right.
That's what he is. One of the very best in the world.
Yeah.
But then Keon really isn't that a playmaker per se either. And of course, neither was Herter. And really, it comes down to Domas. And really what's happened there, you're seeing teams double him automatically now. And, because they know he's such a key to the offense. And he's got to be getting the ball way quicker. He's like
not turning it over.
Yeah, he's like a quarterback getting blitzed.
Yeah.
He's got to find the receivers quicker.
Jerry, is that the fundamental problem with this Kings offense? If we had to zoom in on something, that as Coach Brown's asking them to touch the paint and spray it out, that you're asking finishers to create as the base of your offense? Well,
I do think that, with Fox, certainly he can create and penetrate. But I don't think we're creating enough space for him. In other words, he needs somewhere to go. And a lot of times I think we're using screens unnecessarily. It just gets in the way and gets more defenders in the way. Just let him go beat his guy, because he can get in there, if nothing else, spin back, with the little 10, 12 foot fadeaway. I just think the spacing and the movement for this team hasn't been anywhere near what we expected, because now DeRozan, when he's playing good, but he's doing what he does. But they've got to understand that he's going to use some time on the clock with the ball, just like De'Aaron, and you've got to have cutters and movement off that, because they're going to draw attention. And we, in my mind, we're seeing too many guys just sightseeing while they have the ball.
Hey, folks, hope you are on your way to Bennett's tomorrow for Thanksgiving. If not, you can go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Sacramento, Roseville, and the West Side Grill. You can also pick up your Thanksgiving dinner and take it home. Again, that's Bennett's Restaurants, prime seafood and steak. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you're able to enjoy it tomorrow at Bennett's. Again, Bennett'sRestaurants.com. And don't forget about Sunrise Landing in Colusa, the newest residential community in Colusa. You can get all the information at ColusaSunrise.com, and you can check out all of their beautiful models. This is from Blazona Development. Again, in Colusa, no Melrose, no homeowners, good location adjacent to the Colusa Golf and Country Club, great access to the major roads like I-5. It's all there for you at ColusaSunrise.com. Check it out. That is Sunrise Landing. Again, Kings tonight in Minnesota. Don't forget, the three of us will be joining you at halftime. And then Ryan and yours truly will be on the postgame show. We will take your phone calls, and hopefully we'll be lighting the beam. This is a critical stretch for Sacramento on the heels of a 4-game losing streak. You're not going to have a night off in Portland. They're a better team. And then you come home, you take the 2 Texas teams, you take on San Antonio and Houston, and then you're at Memphis, who's playing very well. They got Morant back. And the next night you're at San Antonio. The last time the Kings went to San Antonio on the second night of it back-to-back, they got blown out. So that's your schedule upcoming. This a bad stretch here, you could be buried in the West.
That's a great point there, Grant. I mean, I think too that as fans, sometimes we're not really paying attention like we should. It's like Houston is one of the best teams in the West right now, and San Antonio is right there, not too far behind, and I don't think they're going away. Wembanyama is finding his footing a little bit, and they've gotten a little bit healthy with a couple of other Vassell and some of those guys back in. So, and then Memphis, of course, when John Morant's playing. Those are 3 teams that were behind the Kings last year. And that's always the scary thing, that they're playing at a level. Okay, well, that 3 teams like that are getting wins, is forcing somebody down.
Jerry, you talk about San Antonio and you didn't mention Harrison Barnes. And I think he's been a great pickup for them. And I said this a couple of days ago. I'm not saying that Harrison Barnes is a better basketball player than DeMar DeRozan. But what I'm saying is the Kings right now are not nearly as good as they were with Harrison Barnes, in my opinion, the last 2 years. I'm just sorry, they're not. It's a different style. You talked about not getting up and down the floor, taking the ball out of the basket and, in 4 seconds getting a good shot. I'm not seeing that much. I'm not talking about Harrison Barnes being a track star, but the fit with Harrison, and I always thought he was underappreciated in Sacramento, but I think maybe Kings fans are appreciating what they don't have now in Harrison Barnes. And I can tell you this, they're happy as heck in San Antonio that number 40 is playing for them.
Well, yeah, he's fit in perfectly, and I don't think anybody of us are surprised by that. He's a pro's pro.
Nope.
And his time in Sacramento, if you really look at his stats, they were highly productive. Now he was at some games, people say he disappears and all that, but even when he didn't score, it might be 6 points on 4 shots. There's 2 things where Harrison, I'd point out with Harrison, just like you did. Number one, he's a better defender than DeRozan.
No question.
Now, rebounding wise, neither one very good, so it doesn't make a lot of difference. But the other thing with Harrison, he was a ball mover,
not a ball stopper.
He was never, he was never kind of a one-on-one guy. I mean, unless he just had a really an open opportunity to the basket or something like that. And so here again, that's DeRozan is a much better one-on-one player and a much better bucket getter, but it also brings something else to the offense. And in my mind, and I don't blame DeRozan for any of that. He's had 12 years of doing that. So, to get him, you got to know what he's good at and like I say, play around it. But you're right about Harrison. He's been the perfect fit, in San Antonio, and he's made him better.
Yeah, the basketball IQ was higher with Harrison Barnes on the floor. There's no doubt about it. And with his back to the basket, he was excellent as well at times when the Kings needed a bucket. So reigning player
in the locker room.
Great in the locker room. Reigning Western Conference Player of the Week for San Antonio. So there you go, guys. Good for him.
How about that?
Yeah, good for him, though. Pro's pro. And as you point out, Ryan, that's a great point. And we've talked about it, is that I felt that was a weakness of the Kings last year, not using him in the low block more. Because he was a guy that really could be effective in there.
That's
he
right.
must go high and low, and they did. When they did it, they were good that way, but they didn't do it much.
Guys, I don't know if you watched Kevin Durant last night, but he came back after missing 7 games, and the Suns looked lost without him. He looked like he's 30 years old again. He looked great to me. And this is the if the Suns can keep Durant healthy for a good part of the season, they're going to be really good. They're good. And I'll tell you, you talk about Tyus Jones. He's been tremendous for them. But when they're all together, they destroyed the Lakers in the fourth quarter last night en route to a big win. They're not going anywhere if they keep their guys on the floor. They're really good.
And they've got a good bench now, too.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
When everybody's healthy, they've got a good bench. And I think Rhino pointed out Tyus Jones like you did. I mean, great pickup for them. Allows Booker to be who he's supposed to be. And I think the coaching is much improved. I think they'll if they stay healthy, they're going to be a real threat.
That's the big if, though. They've not been able to prove that. We've seen it so far this season. But yeah, I guess you could say that about any team. It's hit Sacramento as well, gentlemen.
Well, you talk about injuries. Steph Curry is not playing in the upcoming game against Oklahoma City. So, keep that in mind. You've got the schedule going on tonight. Portland is in Indiana. I'm talking about teams in the West. The Rockets are in Philadelphia. The Clippers are up 8 in Washington. The Knicks are in Dallas to take on the Mavs. The Grizzlies host the Pistons. The Pelicans are home to the Raptors. The Lakers are in San Antonio. The Nets are in Phoenix. The Nuggets are in Utah. And that Thunder Warriors game, no Steph Curry. So something's got to give there. But just about everybody in action tonight. And, you look at the standings right now. And with Sacramento at 8 and 10, if they should lose tonight, they would be 4 games back in the loss column in all likelihood from the 6th spot. And you can say it's early all you want, but I talked about this the other day. There are 64 games remaining right now, okay? I think 46 is the number you're going to have to get to get into the playoffs. I think 46 is the number. The Kings would have to go 38 and 26 to get to 46. And I got to tell you, there's nothing that I'm seeing right now from this Kings team that tells me that they're going to go 38 and 26 in the next 64 games.
No, we haven't seen it yet. I mean, we're all hoping, and tonight, a win tonight might get us thinking otherwise, but you're right. I mean, the stats tell you that that's not the case. Now the win margin is now below, just doesn't anywhere show you that they're a 45, 6, 7 win team. And so that's a concern. And the other concern to me, and I may be a little crazy about this, but they're 4 and 6 at home.
Yes. Terrible.
4 and 6 at home. And like I say, they've got to get to 30 wins if they're going to do what they need to do. And now
I don't see it.
4 and 6 at home, that takes you, anyway, they've, they're in a hole, and they better quit digging.
Well, take it for what it's worth. They were planning to have a team meeting before tonight's game, either last night or today. So that included the coaches as well. So we'll see what comes of that. They played well in Minnesota. I'm looking at teams like the Clippers that are currently sitting in the 7 seed. They don't have Kawhi Leonard yet, and Jeff Van Gundy has done an excellent job defensively with that team. So some of these teams that we see ahead of them, I don't know if I see a lot of them falling back to the Kings.
Yeah, the one too that's behind the Kings and about everybody is the Pelicans, and of course that's all directly related to injuries. Now, can they get themselves out of a hole? They're probably in too big a one, but they can sure cause a lot of problems. But it's
they got DeJounte Murray back tonight, and that will help them. And, you talk about the Pelicans. What's interesting, the Kings play them 3 times in like 10 days in February. And by all accounts, and again, I can't predict the future and further injuries, but they're going to have most of their team healthy when the Kings play. So, it's not only the schedule. When you look at the schedule and try to analyze it, it's like when you play. Like, for instance, let's call it the way it is. The Kings beat Phoenix twice in a week, and Phoenix didn't have Kevin Durant. I don't think there's any way in the world the Kings are beating Phoenix twice with Durant. I could see them going 1-1, but they're not winning both games. I don't think there's any way they would have won the game in Phoenix where they won in overtime. So, you get a break, just like what some of the teams are catching Sacramento when they didn't have Sabonis, they didn't have DeRozan, you didn't have Malik Monk for 2 weeks. It's all part of the deal. But here's what I would say about that. There are many teams in the league right now that are dealing with injuries. Memphis, they survived quite well without Ja Morant, okay? They survive without another key player out. Teams find a way to stay afloat when they miss a key player, but Sacramento's not doing that, and that's alarming to me.
Well, Grant, isn't that, and Jerry, I'll put this to you, that speaks to the weakness on the Kings bench to this point.
That's it exactly right. I was going to say that. Yeah, I mean, it's the old saying, next man up, but when the next man is not anywhere near the guy that got hurt. I mean, you see it in football all the time, and the teams that there's always a ton of injuries, but the better teams seem to have better second line guys. And with the Kings thin bench, it's like, well, no, you And as Grant's talked about, I mean, you're playing the starters big minutes. Well, yeah, you have to.
Right.
You have to have a chance. And so,
You know,
just one thing, Rhino,
yeah.
you pointed out. I want to go back to that. Yeah, Jeff Van Gundy, I think, has no question made a difference with that defense with the Clippers. And I guess my question is, why hasn't somebody hired him to be the head coach again?
No question.
He's been nothing but an outstanding coach when he coached.
I've
Jerry,
heard that he's actually turned down some opportunities
yeah,
because
that's
it
what.
wasn't the right fit for him. But who knows?
Yeah, I wonder about that because I mean,
Yeah.
why would you take an assistant job?
I know. Doesn't make sense to me.
Doesn't make a lot of sense. So I don't know how much the actual offer was there. But anyway, and then I guess the last thing I'd say is like Jordy Fernandez.
Oh, boy.
Brooklyn goes on a back-to-back and goes into Golden State and wins. Who saw that coming?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Brian talked about the defensive game plan he had against Sacramento, and particularly Sabonis. His coaching was stellar in the win against Sacramento.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of kind of guys that anybody could have had. They're playing awfully well, and they traded Bridges and people saying, well, they're tanking and all that kind of stuff. Well, they're playing awfully good for tankers.
Brian, is it fool's gold to be sitting here and talking to the Kings fans and listening to us talk about winning 30 games at home and 38 out of 64 when your three-point shooting is so bad, your perimeter defense is so bad, and you don't play well at home, and you have arguably the weakest bench in the NBA? Why would we think that the Kings are going to all of a sudden go on this big win streak? I don't know how it's going to happen.
Because, Grant, we have seen spurts of what this team can be. At least, and I'm speaking for myself. You look at the quarter in Miami. You look at some of their other games, the overtime in Phoenix. I think when the ball moves, and Jerry talked heavily about this before, the ball moves, this team gets a little bit more healthy, things are going to look much better. Because the one big thing, Jerry, to me that has been sticking out, and you mentioned about getting early baskets, is pace. This team wants to play fast. When you play a let it fly offense, the premise is you're going to get more shots than the other team, and that's not happening.
No, I think our pace ranks like 17th or 18th in the league. So, who saw that coming?
Right.
So, whatever they're doing, if you want to play at a fast pace, you're going to have to figure out how to play it, because right now they're just not doing it.
Well, I'm going to go back to this, and I've been saying it I started talking about it in the offseason. There were a number of people, and I wasn't one of them, by the way, because I don't really know enough about DeRozan's game in terms of watching him play every night. But there were a lot of people, basketball people, in front offices that were skeptical of how this would work, not because DeMar DeRozan's not a good player. Nobody has said that. I mean, people acknowledge that you'd have to be an idiot to say anything different. DeMar DeRozan is a high-quality player. We understand that. He has been his whole career. But there's a fit. It's pieces of a puzzle. I've talked about this a lot. And there were a lot of people that were skeptical how this puzzle would fit together. And I got to be honest, guys, I don't think it's fitting very well right now. And as Jerry points out, you have a Lamborghini at your quarterback, all right, as a point guard, and you're not able to run the ball. You're not able to beat, we talk about points in transition, which are down. We talk about fast break points. It's just not there. I don't know if this is going to work long term. I'm sorry. I just am very skeptical right now.
Yeah, there's a lot, like you say, a lot of basketball experts, and here again, it has nothing to do with DeMar and his talent. He's a known commodity, but it's a little bit, to me, the Kings are going through exactly what the Minnesota Timberwolves are to a degree. Julius Randle's an all-star, has been, and he's a bucket getter, but he's going to play his game, and Edwards plays there. I mean, so there's a lot of ball stoppage. Now, can they get that worked out and get back to playing, as they need to play? They can be awfully good, but that hasn't happened yet. And I think the same way with DeMar, it's like, well, who he is, what he's good at. And it's kind of up to I think Coach Brown and them just to figure out now how can we play, because you're going to have to play him. these guys. This is who you got. So now you got to figure out a way to make it work. And right now it's not working very well.
Jerry, you just hit the nail on the head for me. I think the coaching to this point has been subpar. When you have a player like DeMar DeRozan come in, you got to tweak your system a little bit. We've heard so much about DeMar's passing, his hidden ability. Well, he hasn't been put in positions to be able to be a threat as a passer. And I just don't feel like Coach Brown has made the proper adjustments. We see teams make adjustments in the middle of games. I'm not seeing adjusting. I didn't see adjusting in the second half against Oklahoma City. And I just think that side needs to be better as well as the play.
Yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell. I mean, there's clearly, you can't, basically do the same things for DeMar that you did for Harrison Barnes. It's not the same. So when DeRozan gets the ball, he's looking to score, not move it. So maybe it's just as simple as making sure you're getting guys spaced away, clear out and give him more room, and then get cutters once he puts the ball on the floor, from different angles. So he knows what to do. Or maybe, and I've thought this, hey, when you're in the half court, maybe you need more play calls. I mean,
Amen.
To where you're a little more structured, to where guys know exactly the play running and where they're supposed to be, so you don't clog up the middle or run into one another.
Here's what I do know. The Kings' best player is De'Aaron Fox. And De'Aaron Fox has had his best games this year when DeMar DeRozan's not on the floor. I can't ignore that.
No. And I think that's, and to me, DeMar probably is as coachable as about anybody that ever has been. So, what they've got to make it clear that, hey, this is De'Aaron's team offensively. And when he's got a chance to score the ball or to, give him space, give him space, clear the basket out a little bit. And that means probably Sabonis could come high, could slide to the corner, since really Domas is right now the best 3-point shooter on the team, which
That's pretty sad.
Pretty sad. But actually he is. I think he's going to shoot the ball pretty well out there all year.
Yeah, I think we have to be fair, though, to DeMar, too. And I'm not saying we're being unfair. De'Aaron's shift in playing, his mindset has changed in the last 2 weeks. He is a different player getting inside and playing to his strengths. He was not doing that at the beginning of the season. So
Very
I think
true.
Coach Brown needs to find a way to incorporate that best version of De'Aaron Fox with the other assets that you have.
That's a good point. Hey, go ahead,
Yeah,
Jerry.
that's great because, De'Aaron, too, he's such a good guy and team guy. He was deferring to DeMar too much early, and no, he doesn't need to defer to anybody. He needs to just go play, go create, go be De'Aaron. I mean, he's a 30-plus scorer every night.
Yep. Hey, don't forget, on the post-game show tonight, I Need a Rant with Grant, brought to you by EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. Just two guys, David and Adam, trying something new. This is a long overdue new concept, and they're just trying to do something different and better. They offer new vehicle brokerage. They also offer vehicle consignments, where they sell your vehicle for you, and of course, they can buy your car and will sell pre-owned vehicles. You will take delivery at the Auto Lounge at the EDH Town Center. That's right, El Dorado Hills Town Center. Go to edhmotors.com. You'll get more information. Contact David and Adam. Remember, there's no pressure. You're not going to a dealership. You're not dealing with the F&I office and all the other things that you experience when you go buy a vehicle. It's a great new concept. It's long overdue. David and Adam have over 4 decades of automotive experience. Again, go to edhmotors.com and check everything out at EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. I will add this too, in terms of turning things around. Your players need to play better, and by mean better, up to your expectations. That means Kevin Huerter. That means Keegan Murray. Okay, if you want to start playing well, you can't do it when your main guys are not playing well. And that goes for Malik Monk too, who has not shot the ball well this year. If you're going to climb out of this hole, if you're going to get on a run, it is not going to happen solely on the back of 1 or 2 guys. It's not going to happen. De'Aaron Fox can be Superman all he wants, but he has limitations, and he's also going to get worn down. I mean, you can't play the guy 40-plus minutes every night. So, if you're talking about this critical stretch, Murray needs to step up. Herter, play the way you're capable of playing. We haven't seen that enough this season.
Well, no, you hit on it there. I
Yeah.
mean, when you look at it, I mean, with of course Monks had missed a lot of time, but still with Herter and and Keegan and certainly Malik.
Well, before he got hurt the other night, Trey Lyles was in that category too.
Yeah, no, Trey has not really contributed anything very well. I mean, he's had one game maybe, so his numbers are down. So those guys now, because when you really talk about DeRozan, Fox, and Sabonis, they're playing at pretty close to what they've always played at. Now you could say that Sabonis is making too many turnovers, which he is.
Yeah.
But otherwise, his numbers are right there as good as they've ever been, and his three-point shooting is even better. So you're still getting 20 points on 12 shots. I mean, which is amazing, and 13 rebounds. So that part, but so the big three are basically pretty close to what they're supposed to be. It's the other guys who aren't, and as Grant pointed out, I mean, and they can't. They're not going to win that way unless they get more help from the other guys.
Well, and to your point as well about Sabonis, his best friend, his change of pace is Malik Monk. In fact, the Kings' offensive best friend is that combination because they're about the only two that run the pick and roll beautifully on this team, which gives you a different look offensively. Yeah. So I think that will also help things as well and help the turnovers.
Well, here's a key tonight, I think, and I want to get your guys' take. Let's talk about tonight's matchup. So you don't have DeMar DeRozan on the floor, and you have a Minnesota team that played in overtime last night. 3 of their starters played 40 or more minutes. I want to run these guys up and down the court. And now without DeRozan on the floor, Fox, this needs to be a track meet, in my opinion. I want to see the Kings that I saw, previously, getting easy baskets, getting out in the open court, taking the ball out of the basket and, scoring in 4 seconds. Jerry said, we're not seeing that enough. I want to see that tonight. Guys?
Well, that's what you got to see. I mean, and I think that you got to get fresh, good defender on Anthony Edwards. I would love to see Keon Ellis really focus on him, then use De'Aaron. I would not really waste time with Keegan Murray on him. I don't think it's a good matchup for Keegan, and he's got enough to focus on with some other bigs, Naz Reid and Julius Randle. But they've got to set the tempo of the game, and like I say, the faster the game is, the better chance they have to win. If it's going to be a half-court game, the Kings are in trouble.
Bingo. And that's been the success that the Kings have had in Minnesota the last couple times they played there. They played fast. They've got out to good starts. Jerry, who do you put into the starting lineup tonight?
Yeah, that's it's too bad you can't put Monk in there and just have all guards, but that wouldn't work very well, and you wouldn't have Monk coming in the game. But I'd probably.
How about starting Kevin Herter?
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I would do that.
I would play Herter small forward. I think that's probably his best position in today's game anyway. He has a better chance of guarding guys like Jaden McDaniels than he does a guard. And he's big, and he's 6'7". He's not very strong, but he's long. I've always said, to my mind, that's who he should be coming off the bench and playing behind, playing some at guard and some at forward. I think he'd be more productive that way.
I think you're both right on the money. If you start Alex Len in this game because of the bigs, that does not do anything to get up and down the court like we're talking about. I think Kevin Herter is the right pick right there.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, the Kings and the Timberwolves coming up for you. Tip-off in 30 minutes. And for Sacramento, it goes without saying they desperately need a win as they have lost 4 in a row. They're 8-10. I guess you can take a little solace in the fact that the Kings play better on the road than they do at home, and they're going to be on the road for 4 of the next 6. So maybe that will get them going. But as Jerry repeatedly says, I don't think this team can make the playoffs if they don't start winning at home. All right. They need to start winning at home. They just have to.
Yeah, and I don't know what that means. I think it means playing a little bit faster. I think this team's not come out and really punch teams in the face. I think they've kind of tried to feel it out for the first couple rounds, and they're not good enough to come up on the end on teams yet. So they've got a long stretch, Jerry, coming up at home. They play a lot of home games in December.
Yeah, and then very simple, win them.
Yep.
That's it. That's it. That's what the other contenders in the league's going to do. They're going to win their home games.
Yeah. And what makes this game so interesting, as big of a game this is for Sacramento, if there's such a thing in November, and there is, this is also a very big game for Minnesota. They're now a game under 500, and, they're reeling, and they have not really put it together yet. So two teams kind of mirror images of one another playing against each other.
Yeah, both teams are really expected. I mean, Minnesota thought with the deal that, they would again be top 1, 2, or 3 in the West, and they're not playing like it. And the Kings expected to be in the top 5 or 6, and they're not playing like it.
But they have beat Sacramento twice, but both games, Rhino, really coming down to the final minute.
Yeah, you expect a good matchup. I think you hit the nail on the head about tonight. And watch for them to try to rely on the 3 ball. They shot it really poor last night, 23.7%. They're going to try to get back to that. And guys, the other game that I'm going to watch is Houston. What if Houston wins this back-to-back tonight, going from overtime in Minnesota to beating Philadelphia?
Well,
it wouldn't surprise me.
They've got a pretty good team to beat.
Philly's terrible.
Philly, they're that is a mess that brings Daryl Morey. Kind of deserves it. He has brought it on himself.
Yeah, Daryl Morey is a joke. He's a joke. 37-26, Houston is leading with 90 seconds gone by in the second quarter. They're up 37-26. So we'll keep an eye on that. Portland is leading Indiana 36-28, 10 minutes left in the first half. The Clippers are up 7, 39-32 with 9 minutes left in the half in Washington. Pistons are in Memphis. The Knicks are taking on Dallas. In Dallas, the Pelicans home to the Raptors, the Lakers in San Antonio, the Suns host the Nets, the Nuggets are in Utah. I feel bad for the Jazz tonight after the Nuggets got embarrassed by the Knicks. I can tell you Michael Malone has not been a pleasant guy to be around. And then the Thunder are taking on the Warriors in San Francisco without Steph Curry. I love Michael Malone after the game. Wasn't that great?
Oh,
flushed
great.
it?
Got it.
Guy, I mean, you know his feelings. He don't hide nothing back. That's,
I love it. I do love that guy. He is, every coach has their own style and you have to be your own personality. And I talked about this with Ryan. It kind of bothers me when Mike Brown, after the Oklahoma City game, spends the first 3 minutes praising Oklahoma City and everything that they do well. I don't care about what Oklahoma City does well. I care about why your team got their ass kicked and what you don't do well. I'm okay with saying, first of all, I want to credit Oklahoma City. They played very well. Sure. I'm fine with that. But then move on to your team. I don't want to spend 2 or 3 minutes him, breaking down all the good things that Oklahoma City did and does. I already know that. Tell me what is wrong with your team. It's just a nitpicking, but I don't like that.
Well, I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, it's like, as a fan, which is, we all are at this stage, is that, okay, congratulate him because they're really good. We saw that.
Yes.
We with our own eyes, we witnessed how good Oklahoma. Now, why aren't we better? Do you have any thoughts on what happened in the second half and what could be done different, or why the gap was so huge? That I was kind of hoping for some thoughts along those lines.
Well, first off, I get that there is an etiquette to how you ask the head coach a question. You got to kind of fit it into a professional way. He doesn't get asked those questions. Nobody's pushing him. And secondly, his press conferences after games have been all the same. I listen to him every morning. It's exactly the same stuff. We get nothing new. And I think for me, as a fan and as an analyst, that bothers me because it feels like lack of adjustments. What's going on? What are the particulars that you are seeing? We know the perimeter defense is bad. We know you can't guard the 3, and we know you're not making shots. Why is that? Not just keep putting them up and letting them fly.
They better make shots tonight. They better stop the 3. We're getting some reports that Crowder is starting. I don't agree with that, and I don't like that. But you know what? Whatever. You know what? I think Mike Brown is kind of in a desperate mode right now. Maybe desperate's too strong of a word. Panic mode. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I eat my words, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But as I said, what do you have to lose at this point? Your team's playing bad. You've lost 4 in a row. You're trying anything. You're without one of your best players. Know that your bench is very thin, but now all of a sudden you're taking a guy that he hasn't even had a practice, didn't even participate in shoot around, and you're going to start him. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, it's a little tough. I mean, that surprises me. I mean, the only reason I could think that he would do it is that it's easier probably to kind of script a couple of things for him to start the game with, as opposed to, we're run a couple of things that he's familiar with, whether for him or not, and then maybe sub pretty quick after. But yeah, that's definitely pulling one out of the hat.
Yeah, that's why I was looking down a little bit. I was getting the same messages. I'm getting the same thing that Crowder is starting. I guess what's hard for me to understand about this is he didn't participate in shoot around. And my biggest question for him is where's his conditioning at? Is he going to be able to give you minutes? And you figured he was going to get some tonight, but that's a good way to burn yourself out if you haven't played an NBA game this year. Put him right out into the starting lineup.
Yeah, well, I'd be surprised if he can go more than 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that regardless, I'm sure he's taking care of himself. He's probably kept in as good a shape as you can, but playing pickup games and workouts on your own is not the same as NBA basketball. We all know
Well
that.
said, partner.
Well, we'll see. I mean, again, the Kings have lost 4 in a row. Mike Brown's got to try something, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I'm not coaching the team, and Mike Brown knows a hell of a lot more about his team than I do.
Guys, is it a message to the guys on the team? Is it a message to your Kevin Herters and the guys that are on the bench?
Well, it could be. I mean, and obviously for the message to be effective, Crowder needs to play pretty well.
Yeah, well, that's very true. Hey, New Works Plumbing, speaking of doing things well, they do it great when it comes to your plumbing concerns and repairs. They are available to you around the clock. You go to sackserviceplumbing.com or you call the number on your screen. That's sackserviceplumbing.com. They've got a fix for you. Again, 916-713-1010 or sackserviceplumbing.com. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. All right, so we're getting ready for tip-off. Some final thoughts. We'll begin with you, Ryan.
Just what we said earlier. I think you got to have the pace tonight. You've got to stay balanced on offense. Do not fall in love with the three. In Naz Reid, it comes down to him for me. Can you not give him an easy lane to the basket, which allows them to play inside out?
A lot the same, fast pace, get your spacing, and certainly I think have Keegan ready and reasonably fresh to guard Naz Reid. Because I think that will be a key, and make sure that Fox knows he's got to go get 40 for you.
Well, he's going to have to get 40. And don't forget, we'll all be back here at intermission. And, of course, we take your phone calls on the postgame show. If you're not able to join us later, we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe. Enjoy your holiday. And for those of you that will be joining us here at halftime, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Be sure to give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. We are grateful for you doing that. Talk to you in a little bit, halftime, as tip-off is not too far away in the Twin Cities. Kings and T-Wolves. See you in a little more than an hour, everybody. Bye-bye.